Here's your host, Mike Bergen, the Boomer.
We got a real treat on Fat Hat Radio for you today. Direct from the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania with Pope Francis. We are honored and delighted to have on the phone with us our good friend Johnny. Johnny, had a busy week, huh?
Yeah, you could say that. It was very crazy around here.
After the Pope, you got the most FaceTime.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I had no idea any of that was on. It wasn't until we left till the Mass was over. Actually, earlier that day, my phone died, so I didn't even really know until we got back, and I got to charge my phone for an hour. And then I saw all these messages and emails. And people sent me a bunch of pictures. But, I mean, I had no idea, nor did I know I was going to sit there. I didn't learn any of that until we got out there.
This guy's a real leader.
Yeah, Pope Francis, he's one, even here at the seminary, that we kind of hold up to as our model of, like, what a servant leader is. And he's kind of redefining the way that we view leadership. So before it used to be you wanted to be the leader so you could be in charge and call all the shots and be the guy on top. And he changed all of that for us and showed us that actually if you want to be a true leader, you lead best when you serve. And so that's what we're trying to do here. And I think that that's kind of what's drawing people in. I think, you know, they call it the Francis effect. And
right.
So I think the whole world's watching. Everybody's like hanging on to every word this guy says. And I think ultimately, whether they realize it yet or not, what they're holding on to is Jesus himself. And Francis is portraying that in a way that people haven't seen it in a very long time. And so we can only hope that, you know, we're the beneficiaries of a lot of that grace. I think this weekend in Philadelphia, I know I got to see the city in a way I never saw before. And I'm hoping that's something that will continue to last as we move forward without Francis here.
Everything he did just seemed to touch the right note.
Yeah, I was telling my mom earlier, I still don't really have words yet to describe like what the experience was like, but there are like bits and pieces that I just remember sticking out to me. And I remember at some point during the Mass just becoming so aware of how dead silent it was on that parkway. And that, like, it really blew my mind that there were that many people out there. And you could hear a pin drop when that Mass started. And so it was just like you really felt a presence down there. And the fact that it was right there in our home just made it extra special.
I can't imagine what that sight must have been that you were looking out at.
Oh, it was quite a view. It was really quite a view.
Well, even the low estimates had it at 850,000, and generally speaking, people are just saying it was around 1 million.
Yeah, it was incredible. And, you know, it wasn't only Catholics that were down there. So just the respect that people of other faiths, people of no faith were showing really just blew me away, that there was kind of like a reverence when Pope Francis hit the stage. And that was something, you know, that I really never saw before. That was really great to see.
Yeah, I mean, one man can command that kind of respect. That's something, like I said, I'm telling you, in your lifetime, I don't remember seeing anything like it.
Yeah.
Anything like him, I mean. And I know part of his, talking about servant leadership, part of his, I read this anyway, talk to the bishops, when he had the bishops, I think that was his first day. He might have done that in New York. I'm not sure it was here or New York.
He addressed our bishops here. I think he did it both in New York and here.
Okay, there was 300 bishops in the audience, I read, and I'm looking for, I thought I had a note on it, but I can't find the note. But I do remember that his theme to them was against not sermonizing, but doing. You know, go away from the lecturing and spend more time leading by example. So that makes a lot of sense, what you were saying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I think that that's really that's where Francis thrives. You know, that you have to remember when Christ himself walked this earth, you know, Jesus didn't hand us the Bible and say, here's your, you know, the owner's manual. Good luck now. Jesus never left the Bible behind. He left a group of followers behind. And so really when the church began, all we had were 12 men who watched his example, and they were told to pass it on. And so Francis is kind of bringing us back to that. You know, we need doctrine, yes. You know, the scriptures are the inspired word of God. All of that is absolutely essential. But we can't forget to turn all of our words into action. And by example. And ultimately, there's that little cheesy of a song, but there used to be that song, "They'll know we are Christians by our love." And, that's never more true than when you look at Francis. If there's nothing else, if nobody else in this world loves you, Francis does.
He kept that schedule.
Yeah, and that's something we, as seminarians, we were taking note of, too, because, prior to him coming, we spent our whole week downtown at the World Meeting of Families at the Convention Center, and so it was just a lot of long days, a lot of days on his feet, and we were just on the go constantly. And so we'd come home at night, we'd just be exhausted. And, here we are, we got guys, from like 18 to 40,
Right.
and we're exhausted. And then we look at him, and it's like, oh, well, he's 78, he's got one lung,
Right.
and, he's still going, so we better get up and go with him. He's hard to keep up with.
Right. Did you get any FaceTime with him at the seminary?
Not at the seminary, no, but when, right prior to serving the Mass on Sunday, if you watched on TV, he went around the city on this little kind of like parade route, I guess they would call it, in the Pope Mobile.
Right.
Right before the Mass, probably about 3:30, and then when that was over, he pulled in under a white tent, and in there, all the servers were lined up, and Pope Francis, as is his custom, he likes to greet the people that will serve Mass with him prior to the Mass. So I got to shake his hand and kiss his ring, and then literally we started the Mass right after that. But there were times at the seminary, I'll give you kind of the inside scoop, things that he said that weren't really caught on camera. When he first arrived, I guess this would be Saturday morning, or Saturday afternoon, around 1:30, I guess. He came out, and you can see the video. We were all prepared. We had practiced the song. We're going to sing him our traditional song, the Domine, when he shows up. And so we did that. But then when we were done, he thanked us for the song, but he said, "I want you all to sing another." And that's when all of our hearts dropped, because we didn't practice another song, so we didn't know what's he going to ask us to sing. I hope we know the words. And he said, "It's a tune that you all know, and it's the song of 71." And it was Archbishop Shaptew's 71st birthday. And then Pope Francis started in English to sing happy birthday to him, and we all joined in. And so it was kind of this great little moment where he kind of put us all at ease right away. Here we are on edge, the Pope himself, successor to Peter, the Vicar of Christ, right in our midst.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing he does is, well, let's sing happy birthday. And he starts it. So it was really great. And then the next day is when we presented our gift to him on Sunday. And so what we did here at the seminary is we took a collection among the guys ourselves to join with Pope Francis in his mission to help the poor in Rome. And so we raised $5,000, and then Archbishop Shaptew matched it with his own money. And so we gave Pope Francis $10,000 to help the poor in Rome. And when we gave that to him, he said, "I want you all to remember this, that penance and mortification are still in style." So he did kind of challenge us a little bit, which I think is a wonderful thing. And again, that goes back to what you said, how he's kind of leading by example, kind of putting words into action. And then, let me think, I'll tell you, here's a story for you that it wasn't from Francis himself, but his papal MC, his head liturgist, this guy's name is Monsignor Guido Marini. And you've probably seen him a million times. He's the tall, skinny guy in the purple cassock that is always seated next to Pope Francis when he says Mass. And Monsignor is the one who teaches us what we're going to do during the liturgy. So he's the one that kind of practices with us before the Pope arrives.
Okay.
And he said to us before we went out for Mass, he said, "Do not fall into the worldly trap of seeing Pope Francis as a celebrity. We see him with the eyes of faith. That is to mean we believe he is the successor to St. Peter." And I couldn't have thought of a better way to end our practice to kind of like set the tone for the day, because he's so right. Pope Francis, for Catholics, he's not a celebrity. We don't like him because everybody else likes him. That's not how we see it. So for us, the Mass is not a show. And, the man is not just some star. we believe that he is the successor to St. Peter, so meaning in all the line of popes, he's the one that we hold today, and we can trace him all the way back to the day that Christ told Peter, you are the rock. And so for a Catholic, that's hard to wrap your brain around, especially when a man's standing 2 feet in front of you.
It's hard not to have that celebrity that
Right.
comes to him. I mean,
It is, and
yeah.
I think what's good is, so when he first came to the seminary, they told us they didn't want us to have, don't have your phone out, don't take pictures, just be there. That's our moment with Francis.
Right.
And I'm really glad they said that, because it did, if you watch the footage of us singing, you won't see any of us, trying to take selfies or anything like that. And so I think that is a great thing, because then we watched the video of the Mass he did at the cathedral when he first got off the airplane.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, the people in the crowds, he's walking right in front of them, and you don't even see their face. You see their iPads in the air. And, I'm sitting there and watching them, like, these poor people. The man himself is right in front of you, and you're putting a screen there,
Yeah.
So it's like when you had the option, you chose to view him on a screen instead of looking at him in person. And, that's more comment on us. But it was interesting to see that.
Yeah, but it right. It speaks to his celebrity status too. I mean, it's like everybody wants to have that piece of him.
Yeah, and I think that's the important key there. That he, Pope Francis hasn't changed a single word of the Church's teaching at all. So a lot of times the media, I just saw last night one of my cousins, a couple of people actually, on my Facebook had shared this photo. It's Francis, and there's this quote next to him about how, you don't need to believe in God to be a good person. More people have been injured in God's name.
I saw that a lot. I know.
But Pope Francis never said that.
I know.
So then it's just a shame, because sometimes what will happen is the media will take a snippet, or they'll take, a sentence here and there, and they'll put it out there, and then they'll paint their message of what they wanted Francis to say, when really that's not what he said at all. So, my advice is always, if you want to know what Francis says, go read what Francis said. Read the documents that he said. Go read the interviews. Watch him when he speaks, because he hasn't changed a single word at all. All he's changed is it's him now. It's his delivery. He's using the gift that God gave him, and people are responding to that. But we want to make sure they're responding to him and to his message, which is the gospel, and not to the message of the media.
Right. Well, the social media is, of course, it can't be trusted at all. But
right.
As far as I'm always proud to say this, Fat Hat Radio, we have rules of the road. And number 7 is the purpose of the media is to make money. When he was addressing Congress, which I'm just happy he was able to get out of that snake pit alive, but he's addressing Congress, and I know that I read a couple days before that they were asking people. In fact, I understand that they put plants down not literal plants, I mean human plants, down the aisle, because like in the State of the Union, nobody reaches over. They want a picture with the president. They're taking selfies. They're shaking his hand. They want to avoid that. So they put people on the aisle that they could trust not to do that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But then I also understood that they had asked not to be applauding during a speech. And the first time I caught the applause was when he started to say the golden rule. Now, you probably have seen clips of that by now. I don't know. You were probably too busy that day to be catching this live. But he started to say the golden rule, do unto others. They stood up and gave him a standing ovation. I thought, I think he's being critical of you guys. That wasn't really meant as a compliment to you. He was making a point about how important it is. And he actually finished it a little different. He talked about, my memory of it is he attached the sanctity of human life. Like he didn't mention abortion. He didn't mention the death penalty there. I know that he did during his time in the States, but at that point he was just being a little subtle, I think, with him. But I couldn't believe it, and I think I read somewhere they interrupted him with applause 31 times, and I'm thinking, he wasn't really there to entertain you. I think he was trying to give you a message. So
yeah, I can't really speak to that speech. I didn't speak. We were down at the World Meeting at the time. So there's a lot. I keep joking with people. I have to buy the DVD when it comes out to know what happened when he's here.
Right.
Because when you're in the middle of it, there's a lot that we miss. Because when we're traveling, and then with all the security checkpoints, we'd have to leave for things hours ahead of time. So we would be kind of on the road and away from televisions and newspapers, and so we have a lot of catching up to do this weekend around here.
I'm glad you said that, because before we get off here, I actually did a little research today in the hopes that I could stump you with a few things here. And
okay.
And if you don't know some of this stuff, like you said, you'll get to see it. If nothing else, you'll see the DVD. But
absolutely.
To finish my thought on Congress, I was shocked to read that 1 in 3 members of Congress are Catholic, or identify as Catholic, which surprises me. The more things.
Yeah, I can see why that would be shocking. A lot of times people don't, their platforms don't necessarily reflect those of the Catholic Church. So it would be.
Well,
it doesn't surprise me that it would surprise you that.
It did surprise, yeah.
Catholic.
And no, but I was just going to say, well said. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but that's well put. My favorite part of that trip, and you may have heard about this already, is that they invited him to lunch with like the leaders of the Congress, the Senate and the House. And
I did hear this.
And he declined, and he went down to, I think it was the same. He had lunch with the homeless. It was a Catholic Charities thing, I think it was in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral, but I'm not 100% sure of that. But I am 100% sure.
Yeah, just this morning I was sitting and I was talking with the rector of our seminary here, our bishop, and he was talking about Francis and basically talking about just how blind Francis is to, social status and class distinction in like a really wonderful way. Like, you can't impress him with that. And I think it's beautiful because I think that's how God would look upon people too. He doesn't really care about your title. He doesn't care how much money you make or how powerful you are here. He just sees you, the being he created. And I think Francis is demonstrating that so well in just the way that he carries himself. You can tell when you look at him that here is a man who knows God.
Right.
Because you can't fake it till you make it with this stuff. He is the real deal. I think when he first arrived, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but the very first thing he did in Philadelphia was to kiss the boy with cerebral palsy in his wheelchair. And I'm saying boy, it could be a girl, I don't know who it is. But I think with that single kiss, he set the tone for the entire weekend. That this is what we're going to do while we're here.
Well, great quote I read today that Obama apparently introduced him as, this was part of his introduction, and this goes, I think, to what you're saying. We see a living example of Jesus' teaching, a leader whose moral authority comes not just through words, but also through deeds. And that's...
and that, I would say, that's the call to all Christians, that we have to put into practice what it is that we believe. So our faith is not, it's not in the book, and it's not necessarily in reciting the prayers, but it's in, basically changing our whole life and living the gospel message. Reading it might be step one, hearing it might be step one, but at some point, you yourself have to make the decision to say, I do believe in this, and I'm going to live my life according to it.
Did you know he did a little improv on Saturday night?
I did. We were there for that, so I did get to. I was at the festival, so I didn't get to see, that he had a script and he turned it down, but I did know that he was going off the cuff. I thought he did a great job. The line that stuck with me from that night was when he was talking about Jesus, and he said, Christ could have come into anything that he wanted to, but he chose to enter the world in a family. And I thought that was beautiful.
Like when he went through the prison, I don't know if you got a chance to see that yet, but he walked through each row and shook the hand of every prisoner, of every family member, and of there was some victims' families there too. So he shook everybody in the room's hand. And he walked around, and he was through, I would say, 3.5 rows of prisoners, because he went to the prisoners first. And in the third row, one of them got up and hugged him. And he hugged him.
Yeah.
He let him hug him. And then two guys later did the same thing. And then suddenly they were touching him. I don't know if somebody put the kibosh on it, because that didn't happen again for the rest of his walkthrough. I got 500 people were in that papal choir up on stage.
Oh, yeah,
with you
they
there.
sounded beautiful.
They were all volunteers. Did you know that?
Yeah?
From the local parishes? I didn't know they were local parishioners.
Yeah, no, they sounded beautiful. Yeah, that whole night was special. I mean, even just hearing the stories from different families and having them come and literally stand face to face with the Pope and tell them basically, look, this is what we're struggling with, and this is our, this is our family's history, and for the Pope to sit there and listen. Do you know what I mean? I think if nothing else, that's what I've learned a lot during this World Meeting of Families, the whole week, really, just that, the Church came to listen. And there's just something about watching a young couple who's about to get married literally stand at the foot of the steps to Pope Francis and tell him that they're struggling with remaining chaste. I mean, in front of the world, special. You don't see that. I think it was a wonderful opportunity, a beautiful opportunity. A lot of times people like to rag on the Church and say that, we're outdated and things like that. But I think what this week has taught me, and I hope it will teach other people, is that a lot of what the Church does is it's to provide opportunities. And so the World Meeting of Families, we do it every 3 years. And it's an opportunity to get families from across the world in one space for 1 week to talk about real stuff. And that's what happened this week. And that's what I think is going to draw people in. Say what you want about us, but we just stood there and put all our dirty laundry on world television, and we talked about real issues that are very, very hard to talk about. And all you saw was love in response.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Speaking of the challenges people have, did you see the Mary Undoer of Knots? Did you get that?
I
story?
did. That was a beautiful,
nice.
Kind of like a concrete image that you could see. I can actually tell you a little story about that, too. Somebody that I am friends with, they went down there all week on their lunch breaks. They worked in the city, and they went over and they tied their prayer intentions to the globe that they had down there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know how much you read about it, but you're supposed to leave your intentions, and then you're supposed to take somebody's off, take their knot off, and you're to pray for them, throughout the week. And so he went down there every day on his lunch break, left his petitions, prayed, and he actually got a call before the week was over saying he got the promotion that he needed at work and all this stuff. And so there was just really grace abounding down there.
Right.
And I thought that, that's Pope Francis's devotion is to Our Lady, our Endurer of Knots. And I thought, what a great image for him to see. And really just to show you the universal church, with all those ribbons, just how many people are out there, and from all over the world they came to us. It's incredible.
Now here's something that's going to stump you. You cannot possibly know this. Francis was also on hand as St. John's Abbey in Minnesota presented the Library of Congress with an Apostles' edition of the St. John's Bible.
I did not know that.
Neither did I. So I didn't even know it was the Library of Congress. So that's another thing to add on to his. Anyway, the original handwritten and illuminated manuscript, which was completed in 2011, is thought to be the first commissioned by a monastery since the printing press was invented in 1440. I know. It is 1,130 pages long and reportedly cost $8 million to create. The price tag for the Apostles' edition, of which 12 copies have been produced, is presumably lower. So I don't think he got the original, but he got one of the Apostles' editions.
Well, there's a gift.
That's a gift and a half, huh? So it says...
Oh, it's one of those things. It's like, what do you get the Pope?
Listen, I stumbled on this on artnet.com. You can imagine how much time I've spent on artnet.com.
Yeah, you've been doing your homework, Mike.
I know. I had to work hard. I didn't think I was going to be able to get you anything, but that was the one. I thought it was one thing you wouldn't know. Pretty.
And, I think maybe this might be a good note to kind of end on.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that, the world is attracted to this man right now. The world is watching. And, everybody I talk to, they just can't get enough of him. They can't get enough of this Pope Francis. And so what I would say to those people, if you're one of them and you can't seem to get enough of this guy, try to take a page out of his book. He didn't get that way overnight. He didn't get that way just because he became the Pope. He got that way because he spent his life living the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so if you want to be like Pope Francis, be like Jesus.
That is a good thing to end on. I like that. And I'll try to remember that myself, okay? You can remind me.
Amen.
once in a while. Amen.
Thank you for this Boomer. This was a great little time.
Well, Johnny, I cannot possibly thank you enough, giving us a little peek behind the scenes. Now, we're only in our second season here at Fat Hat Radio, which I know you're well aware.
Yes.
But this was by far our best Brush with Greatness story. So you are definitely taking the lead. Now, up until now, our best story was when Jigger Jones is
Yes.
one of our own team here.
Yes.
Yeah, he told the story a couple weeks ago that he once flew cross country in first class with Daryl Dawkins, who was loudly snoring for most of the flight. So, and it was a good story. I'm sure you didn't get a chance to catch that show, but you enjoyed that story.
I'll
But
go back.
Chocolate Thunder passed away a few weeks ago, so I was lucky enough to have Jigger around to tell that story.
Too much.
That was great. All right, Johnny, can't thank you
All right,
enough for what
all
you
the
said,
best
buddy.
to you.
Same to you, and I hope I get to see you soon, huh?
Absolutely.
Great job.
All
Take
right,
care out there,
take care.
buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
You're listening to Fathead Radio via Live 365.